You see this bell icon here? Hit it now and we'll ensure you get delivered the very best of reviews, interviews and pop culture content.
What are we to do when genuinely talented actors who have typically been relegated to supporting roles finally get to lead projects? Are we to celebrate the fact that they now have a starring role and that their talent is finally getting the recognition that it deserves? Or be dejected and deeply frustrated when those very projects turn out to be middling, hollow and bland? These are just some of the questions that ZEE5's new original series BloodyBrothers left me with. What promises to be a dark comedy series was for me a second-hand existential crisis about what it means to be a fine actor. Is it those that create rich, layered characters with keenly observed, lived-in performances? Or is it the expectation to work overtime and do all the heavy lifting in trying to find some sense of substance in dull, lifeless material, while they and us wait around for them to find something more worthy of them? An adaptation of British series Guilt, BloodyBrothers stars two of Hindi cinema's finest, Jaideep Ahlawat and Mohammed Zeeshan Ayyub as Juggy and Daljit, two brothers who on a late drunken evening hit a man with their car, killing him. What follows is a dark comedy of errors as they try and scramble to cover up their tracks, inadvertently just making it increasingly worse for themselves as they go along, all while larger secrets and hidden agendas come crawling out of the woodwork. Directed by Shad Ali, the 6-episode series takes a promising plot and squanders it with shoddy execution. Take your pick between the lifeless writing, the grating dubbing, the overactive background score, or the lazy staging, the odd pacing, or that inconsistent tone. What you get is a bland series that just seems to coast along in its own plainness. Despite there being 4 writers with Siddharth Hirve, Riya Pujari, Anuj Rajoria and Navneet Singh Raju, the screenplay is unimaginative and scattered. There's little sense of flow or escalation, and even the structure of each episode and the attempts at cliffhangers and twists are uninspired and lack heft. So much so that despite the forgiving runtime of only 6 episodes, the show still feels like an absolute slog, all of which leads to a grand climax which I swear I couldn't even explain to you if I tried. Without that sense of conviction on paper, watching Juggy and Daljit continually slip up and make matters worse for themselves isn't engaging or entertaining, it's just annoying and difficult to make sense of. Early on, Daljit gets into a relationship with Sophie, the niece of the man he's killed, as if that's some sort of smart, calculated move. You guys remember the time, right? You know, when you accidentally ran over someone and then you went on a date with their niece who you met at the funeral? Good times. The always sincere Jaideep Ahlawat and Mohammed Zeeshan Ayyub do their best but are hampered by the material. Of the two, Jaideep comes out relatively more unscathed. I understood his character more, and it's at times enjoyable to watch the permanently frustrated Juggy trying to plug one hole only to see 5 new ones erupt.
सैलिश जी के वकील का फोन था।
तेरे पास कैसे?
मेरा वॉलेट वहाँ छूट गया ना।
तेरा वॉलेट सैबल के घर में रह गया?
हाँ, तो तेरा दिमाग खराब है क्या?
It's also got to be said that Jaideep looks like an absolute boss in those costumes and fierce power suits, because that's just what happens when you aren't even remotely engaged or invested in the narrative. Your brain starts latching on to pretty much anything else, like what people are wearing. Elsewhere, the female characters are wafer thin. Mumbai Diaries' Tina Desai brings little to the character of Sophie, and the earnest Shruti Seth does her best in an ineffective track as Juggy's unhappy wife. I did, however, thoroughly enjoy watching Maya Alag as Sheila, the creepy blackmailing neighbor of the deceased. She's a genuinely promising character and a sparkling bit of casting, as a rare example of the series nailing its darkly comic tone. There's one hilarious scene where she's trying to blackmail Jaideep's Juggy, and she literally says, "I don't give an F beep beep beep. All I want is my F beep beep beeping money." And when he asks why the hell she's talking like that, she replies, "Main shaam ko gandi baat nahi karti." I'd happily watch a comedy sketch series of just her haggling with gangsters and kidnappers all day. BloodyBrothers is yet another unremarkable, hollow adaptation from BBC Studios India, who continue to adapt every British series ever made anywhere ever. But aside from the odd exception like Out of Love, all they really seem to specialize in is creating projects that feel like shows for the sake of it. Throw in director Shad Ali, who also helmed last year's painfully lazy Call My Agent Bollywood, and what you get is an unintentional masterclass in how not to do an adaptation. In the end, despite its fine acting talent, BloodyBrothers is a dark comedy where the dark part isn't all that tense or thrilling, and the comedy part just isn't all that funny. You can watch BloodyBrothers on ZEE5.